The NBA actually made their initial rule set in 2017-18, based on that situation. And there weren't so many strict rules as far as fines go, but these new stipulations that they just voted on today, guys, it's interesting to me because the first offense is $100,000, second is $250,000, the third is an additional $1 million, and then every fine thereafter is an additional $1 million. So this can really add up. It's additive. The other big takeaway I found was only 25 teams this applies to, because it applies only to teams who have 2 stars on the team. Because the basic rules are they're trying to, I'll just spell it out really quick. No more than 1 star player can be unavailable for the same game. Stars must be available for nationally televised games and in-season tournament. No shutting down stars to lose games on purpose end of season. That's a situation where you don't actually have a valid reason for a star player to miss the last 10 games like they did in Washington last year.
Yeah, I was going to say that also kind of maybe applies to the Mavericks when they pulled Luka at the end of that game.
That was 1 or 2 games, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's really that last stretch when you're, you clearly have 20 wins at the end of the season. You're not going to make the playoffs. Sitting your star players for those final 10 games or so, that's a no-no now. Teams must ensure healthy players resting are present and visible in the stadium. You're talking about wanting to see your favorite players.
So you got to be there.
Right.
You at least got to be seen.
And alluding to what DK just mentioned earlier, they have a 7-day notice to the league to tell them that they're going to be resting a star player. So you can't, a healthy star player. If you have a player who has a torn ACL, whatever, that's an obvious situation. That player's not playing. But if you have a healthy player who could be active and you choose to sit them, you have to make the league known, because you know how the gamesmanship works. These teams, these coaches, they don't want to let the opponents know who's going to be suiting up until right before the game, because it gives them a distinct advantage, because that team has to prep for players that may or may not be in the lineup, right? We all know gamesmanship. This setup makes it so that fans, as DK mentioned, if you're a little kid, you get birthday tickets to go see your favorite player, Steph or whoever, and you got to drive 8 hours to get there from your little town, and you get to the arena, and half an hour before the game starts, the franchise and the coaching staff announces that Steph's not playing. That's what they're trying to avoid. They're trying to avoid that situation. So only 25 teams, 50 total players, because the NBA has now defined what a, quote, star is. And a star now to the NBA, quote unquote, is somebody who's made the All-Star team or an All-NBA team anytime within the last 3 seasons. So anybody who made the All-Star team or All-NBA 5 seasons ago is not considered a star by this definition.
There you go. Commissioner David Silver had this to say today about it. I think we'll state this principle, see how teams react, and see if more needs to be done. But I think most importantly, there's a sense from all the different constituent groups in the league that this is ultimately about the fans and that we've taken this too far. And there's no question that it has gone too far. I mean, this is an acknowledgement that it's gotten away from us a bit. Silver went on, particularly, I think, when you see young, healthy players who are resting, it becomes maybe even more notion of stature around the league as opposed to absolute needed rest. And it goes back to what J-Dub said. Man, in the 80s, dudes played 82 games.
Everyone played.
Yeah, there was no resting.
Here's the cycle, right? So you got a veteran. Okay, you got a rookie comes in. He wants to make a name for himself. So what does he do? He goes to challenge everybody who's up at the top at his position as soon as he gets in the league. All those guys who are at the top see this guy coming. He'd circle him on the schedule. Next time I see this guy, I'm going to make sure he understands that he's got no place in this game with me. I'm this guy up here. You're way down here, whatever. That's the cycle, right? So it used to be a proving grounds where young players would come in. Let's say hypothetically you're a shooting guard in the 80s, 90s. You want to go up against Mike. You want to see what you can do against this guy everybody talks about, can't be beat. So forth and so on. Nowadays, you have a situation where some of the younger, it's okay if guys like LeBron and Kawhi Leonard and people like that want to take a day off. But when the younger players are starting to take time off, whatever, then it just becomes a situation where the fans are the ones who suffer. And you don't need to rest for a couple of days. I mean, these guys, we're talking about younger guys, DK, because we get into it more later, but there are stipulations for players over 35 and players who've had at least 14,000 total combined NBA minutes, playoffs included. So there are some stipulations and exceptions that they can get into. But for the most part, they're just trying to make sure that, especially the younger players, the younger star players, are always available for the fans to be able to come out and see.
All right, 520-848-1290. 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. How do you feel about these new rules in the NBA? Are you happy about this? There's a lot of you out there that are like me, displaced from your favorite teams, and you love when they come out here to Arizona to play the Cardinals, to play the Suns, to play the Diamondbacks. I mean, I've already spoken. I went up and saw my tribe play against the Diamondbacks this summer in June. I look for opportunities to go see my Browns play, and I love it when my Cavaliers come out here to Phoenix. Joining us now, welcome back, Christy.
Hello.
Christy is back in for cricket. So now this is the rest of the week or just today?
Just today and
Okay.
Wednesdays for the next couple Wednesdays.
Oh,
yeah.
Wednesdays for those. So we'll have you'll be Wednesday Christy
I am.
for the next. So tell us how life has been going on. Now you're working with the mail, United States Mail Department.
Yep, I deliver mail way up north in Marana.
Way up north.
It's a challenge. I'm not going to fib. It's a challenge. It's been hot.
Yes, it has
It's been, and those little LLVs have no air conditioning.
Ooh.
And if I'm lucky, I'll get to be on a route that has one of the vans that actually has air conditioning. But then
Yeah.
my problem is I don't want to get out of it.
But then because the door is always open, there's like an open door thing, is it or no? Is it all enclosed now?
The LLV, you can open it and have it open, but only like in neighborhoods.
I see.
Any regular, if you're going any further than like a couple hundred feet, you have to close the door. But the vans are regular doors. So you just have to kind of leave those open. Or not open, closed. I'm sorry. You have to leave them closed and just kind of lean real far out the window.
Any dog incidents yet?
Just loveys. I'm a dog whisperer.
Haven't had to take down anybody's pup yet?
Not yet. Not yet.
well, that's
I've
good.
gotten lots of kisses though. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Well, yeah, the dogs love Christy as well. All right. Well, we'll enjoy having you here, Christy, the next 2 Wednesdays. She will get you home every 20 minutes on the fives with your traffic and your weather.
We have a couple collisions. That's Mission and Irvington. That's affecting east and westbound Irvington. You can use Drexel instead. And we also have a new collision on Mission Road and Calle Acapulco, which is just north of Ajo Way. We have a few storms tonight, about a 30% chance of storms before 11 o'clock tonight with an overnight low of 67 degrees. And currently it's 88 degrees. I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio, 1290 traffic and weather together.
This week. to watch for the Wildcats this Saturday against UTEP, as Coach Johnny Nansen said that all the guys in the room will be seeing some action on the field this Saturday.
Yeah, everybody's going to get to play. You know, the best guys and the guys that are ready to play this week are the guys going to start. If it's Gunner or Genesis, those will be the guys. You know what I mean? I trust all of those kids back there. They're capable. You know, IT came in and played really well. You know, when you look at what we did in the first half, not having Gunner, you know, and not having Stooks, the back end held up, you know, so I trust in what they're doing back there. So, you know, whoever we felt like is ready to play is going to play this week.
Just a reminder, again, the Saturday's game against UTEP will kick off at 8 p.m. Arizona time. Be sure to check for tickets on ArizonaWildcats.com for some seats. Many of the sections currently in the stadium are currently listed with low availability for the game this weekend. As was expected, the NBA has officially ruled in favor of the association's competition committee to ensure that star players will not be sitting and resting during nationally televised games or during the new in-season tournament games, as the Board of Governors approved a policy that will allow the league to fine teams starting at $100,000 and eventually increase the penalties to $1 million. The star player designation is defined by the policy as players who have been on an all-star team or all-NBA team the prior 3 seasons. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal for the Suns all fit that category. That's your 2020 Sports Update. We'll have more for you here on Wildcats Radio 1290.
DK on the Sports Tip on Wildcats Radio 1290.
All right, let's talk some high school football. We are coming up on week 5 of the season. It is week 4 for the big schools in southern Arizona, and one young man who is absolutely killing it so far this year is running back Caden Luke over at Canyon Del Oro High School, and he joins us right now. And Caden, just obviously this is the last go around in high school, and you guys. I would almost say, and I'll ask you this question: do you personally have a chip on your shoulder after everything that you and your team dealt with last season?
Oh, for sure have. We play at a higher intensity this year than I think we ever have. Well, we've been playing together. Our core group has been playing together since we were probably 8 years old. So I think of all years, this year we've kind of been getting after it.
For those that don't know, obviously there was a situation last year. 6 players were suspended for the majority of the season last year. Caden was one of those players for an incident that took place outside of school. Caden, what did you learn from that experience?
I learned that success is achieved through sacrifice. In order to be great at something, you have to give up something else that may not be as important as what you are striving to be good at.
That's a great way to look at it. Obviously, you're considered to be one of the leaders on that team. Did that kind of resonate with you as well? It's like, look, I'm a guy that other teammates look up to because of what I can do for this team, and I have to maybe look at things a little bit differently than maybe I did before.
Yes, sir. Oh, definitely. I think the captains are kind of held to a little bit of a higher standard just because we kind of oversee everything and we make decisions for the team. And I think kind of we lead our own team.
And then when you got to, I mean, obviously a lot of people maybe don't know that you're also a wrestler. You play football and you wrestle. Was like going into wrestling, was that different for you last year because you were held kind of down on the football side? Did you have like more energy, like, oh, I've got all this aggression that I didn't get out on the football field this season. Now I'm going to take it to the wrestling mat and make people pay there?
Yes, sir. I definitely had something to prove on the wrestling mat just because of the situation that went on last year. I felt that I had to prove it not only to myself, but to the people around me, my family, and kind of just the community, that I'm not just kind of some screw up. So,
Caden Luke joining us, running back for the Canyon Del Oro Dorados, also an outstanding wrestler here from Southern Arizona. Caden, I want to go back to last year. And one game you did play in against Catalina Foothills, I think it was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen for a kid your size, when you hurdled a defender for Catalina Foothills. Would you say that that's maybe one of the top things you've ever done on a football field?
No, definitely is. I don't really plan for it, but it kind of just happens out of instinct. So, yeah, I'd say it's probably one of the greater things I can do.
Have you tried to do that again? Have you tried to do that yet this season?
I did it last week, sir.
Oh, you did it last week?
Yes, sir.
How did it go the second time around?
Oh, I hurdled 2 people.
On the same play?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. And you're not
Yeah, they
even
were kinda
are you
flooded up.
do you run track at all in the spring? Are you a track guy in the spring? What do you do in the spring? Do you have a spring sport?
No. I try to wrestle as much as I can and play football as much as I can. I kind of run on my own, but not much as a sport.
You have one of the biggest sets of shoulder pads I think I've ever seen. When did you kind of like go to maybe that oversized, menacing shoulder pad, neck pad look?
I think once I kind of hurt my neck a little bit ago, probably my freshman year, and I kind of had to switch over to that just because it was kind of for my own health, pretty much.
Do you ever get hesitant to play after, or to engage when you're coming off an injury like that?
Oh no, never. No, that's kind of just what I do. I think that when people are hurt, it's the most real feeling you can have, and it kind of it makes you more how can I say it, more ambitious, more hungry. It creates a sense of it being real.
Caden Luke joining us from Canyon Del Oro High School. The Dorados off to a fabulous start to this 2023 season. What have you liked so far about the way things have gone in these first 3 games, Caden?
I think we have all improved as a team. I think that our chemistry is better than it's ever been, and we have all just come together as one. I think we're definitely playing really hard up front, and we're also throwing the ball very well.
How have you managed? Obviously, this is a team that's come into this season with a lot of expectations. How have you and your teammates managed that?
We go out every morning to practice, and we get after it. We sometimes it gets a little angry and a little chippy, but you know what? That's for the greater good of the sport and the greater good of the team. So I think we start out our day by getting after it at practice.
Yeah, you guys kind of go in the mornings on a lot of those days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
What do you like about kind of getting practice out of the way early and then having the rest of the day?
I really like waking up in the morning and going straight to football. It kind of just sets your day up really well. You feel good for the rest of the day right after that.
You got some big dudes there in front of you that have done a lot of work to helping you become who you are. I mean, obviously, Sakali Woodard is on that line for you. Morgan Nakaroti is out there as well. What do you love about those dudes down front?
Well, sir, to be honest, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing as good as I am now. If they weren't so physical up front, I wouldn't be able to run the ball for as long as I can. I would be injured or gaining no yards.
574 yards in 3 games. What were your goals? What were your goals going into this season in terms of what you thought you could do yardage wise?
My goal for the end of the season is at least 3,500 to 4,000 yards for the end of the season is the goal. But I want to see what I can do.
That is insane. 3,500 yards. Well, let's say you get 10 games and you've played 3, so you still got at least 7 to go. So that is not necessarily unrealistic.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know. I just got to keep doing it. I just got to keep doing my thing.
What influence has head coach Dustin Peace had on you?
Oh, a lot. He has taught us the game of football, not only on the field but off the field. He has created a sense of loyalty and tough love. He has taught us to be brothers, not only on the field but off the field as well.
And we know our guy Glenn Howe. You've worked in the weight room with him over the years. What's the one thing that Coach Glenn has you doing that you absolutely hate, but you know makes you better?
The dang warm up we do, man. It gets you every time. It'll gas you out before the workout even starts. He always says if you warm up like crap, then your workout's going to be crap. So he kind of gets us on a really, really tough warm up, and then we kind of get our day rolling.
And give me those goals for wrestling this year. What's the goal for wrestling?
I'd like to go undefeated again and win another state title. I'd like to maybe wrestle in some out-of-state tournaments and kind of prove myself there.
So what's the future, do you think? Is it going to be on the football field or is it going to be on the wrestling mat for you?
To be honest, it kind of depends on where I go. I'd like to do both if I can. I'd like to play football and wrestle if that's a possibility, but if not, then I'm probably more than likely going to stick to playing football.
Outstanding. And I mean, there's not a lot of guys with your size that can run the ball like what we've seen from you the last couple of years. Were there guys that you idolized in terms of ball carriers, whether it was college guys you watched or NFL guys you really looked up to?
Yes, sir, definitely. Mike Elstad, actually.
Yeah.
He is definitely a guy I look up to kind of my whole life, actually. I've always been kind of a stockier kind of a fella, so I kind of always idolized running like him.
All right. Well, Caden, continued success. Stay on that good path over there as a leader of that ball club. Looking forward to kind of seeing what you and the Dorados can do for the remainder of this season.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man. I appreciate it always.
Caden Luke, running back for the CDO Dorados, having a fabulous start to this 2023 season. 574 yards in 3 games. Has run for over 200 yards twice already this season. I gotta see if I can Dragon Ball pull up this video from last year, and I will do that in the next segment so people can see him hurdle that kid from Catalina Foothills. One of the most, I mean, when you see the size, and we had the picture up if you're watching on any one of our streams, we're streaming on YouTube, we're streaming on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Twitch. You could just see the picture and I mean, he kind of looks, in terms of the pads, a lot like Blake Martinez did when he played for Dustin Peace over at CDO.
My favorite part of that is the bit where Glenn gasses him out with the warm-ups. Because, like, I've heard Glenn Howell talk for many, many, many years here on the station for pre and post. And, you know, that philosophy of, you know, really fighting through, right, that level of tiredness and exhaustion and having your head, being mentally fit in those moments. I mean, that's what wins football, basketball, baseball. It doesn't really matter what it is. I mean, and so the idea of him gassing them out really hard before they even begin their workout,
right.
That's so Glenn. I love it.
And hearing that his idol is Mike Allstott, I suddenly am wondering if the reason for his larger shoulder pads really was the neck injury, or I kind of want to look like Mike Allstott on the field.
Nobody ever hurled Mike Allstott, I'll tell you that much.
Nobody ever.
That was a dangerous proposition.
You would go so low to the ground, you would try to lay down before he rolled over you.
Right, yeah. He hit hard.
Yes, he did. He was a menacing fullback in the National Football League. All right, thanks to Caden Luke for joining us. Coming up on the show today, we've got a lot in store for you. Troy Hutchinson is going to join us from Go Easy Cats in our Arizona Insider segment. Jordan Wilson from U of A Volleyball will also join us. They've got a tournament where they'll play 3 games coming up. We'll talk to Jordan about playing the #1 team in the country last week over in Madison, Wisconsin. Getting you home every 20 minutes on the 5s with your traffic and your weather. Sitting in for cricket is Christy.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic. We have a couple collisions, Thornydale and Overton Road, 22nd Street and 8th Avenue, 22nd Street and South Freeway, Roger Road and 1st Avenue, and Craycroft Road and River Road. We're also seeing some slowing at Tangerine Road and Latoya Boulevard. I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic.
This report is sponsored by Taco Bell. Taco Bell's new $2 stackers live up to their name. They're stacked with layers of seasoned beef and melty cheese. And they're $2 by, well, being $2. Get one at Taco Bell today at participating stores for a limited time only while supplies last. Contact store for price and participation, which vary. Tax extra.
We're looking for Tucson's ugliest cars. Even if it's not working, bring it to Jim Click and Holmes Tuttle and get a minimum $3,000 towards one of our 1,000 vehicles. For details, visit jimclick.com or call 520-690-5012.
License to 40693.
All right, Polar Bears. New rule at Alaskan AC. If someone is broken down today, we get to them today, or the repair is free.
Absolutely. Call us today. We'll be there today.
I'm serious. Same day or it's free. No ifs, ands, or buts.
2020 Sports.
Sun superstar Devin Booker looks to be good to go for Team USA. 2024, Washington Wizards forward Kyle Kuzma seemed to hold up a hypothetical on social media asking that Team USA needs to get some NBA stars that know how to play their role and basically open the question to whoever could possibly answer. Booker quickly responded on social media with the phrase, "I'll do it," seeming to hint that he will join LeBron James and other NBA stars next year. Still in shock from what occurred on Monday Night Football, the Jets continue to look into what their next step as a franchise will be for the remainder of the season, but head coach Robert Saleh says that he does not expect to hear that Aaron Rodgers will be retiring following his Achilles injury.
I haven't gone down that road with him. I'd be shocked if this is the way he's going to go out. But at the same time, for him, he's working through a whole lot of headspace things that he needs to deal with, and that will be the last thing I talk to him about. It sounds cliche, but it's next man up. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that you've lost a player. At the end of the day, Sunday's coming, and we've got to put our best foot forward.
For the meantime, the Jets have said that they will stick with Zach Wilson as their starter for the rest of the season and have Tim Boyle slated as the backup for their next game against Dallas. That's your 2020 Sports Update. We'll have more for you in the next Wildcats Radio 1290 update.
DK on the Sports Tip on Wildcats Radio 1290.
All right, 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. Caden Luke joined us from Canyon Del Oro High School. He is one of the fabulous running backs here in Southern Arizona to start this high school football season. And I want to show this for those of you that are on our streams. You'll be able to see this. I want to show this video from last year here, and if I can get it it's a little bit off here, but we'll get it right for you. But this was a game against Catalina Foothills High School last year, and he is going to totally hurdle this kid. This was on overtime.
Now, Luke's got the biggest shoulder pads I think I've seen since Blake Martinez, and he knows how to use them. It's going to take about 7 guys to bring him down here. This kid can power clean 315.
And he loves to flex. He loves to flex right there, as you can see.
When you run through 5 guys, DK, you earn the right to flex.
Well, you know what that looks
Then
like?
check.
Looks like to me is a guy who spends his time wrestling when he's not playing football.
Yeah, check out the back. Check out those shoulder pads from the back right there. And that shot right there. All right, it gets good here.
This out right here. This is about as good as I've ever seen. Are you serious right now? Get out of here. Caden Luke, y'all. 4 touchdowns.
More flexing. More flexing.
What up indeed. Daniel Signs tell him.
We gotta see that one more time there. I mean, he totally hurdled this
Power
kid.
clean 315.
Kill the audio this time. He totally hurdles this kid from Catalina Foothills. Tried to go low here and whoop, just right over him. Keeps his balance. And on his way to the end zone there. That was pretty.
That's becoming more of a trait for all running backs now, where you got to be able to at least hurdle one guy. It seems like it started with LeGarrette Blount was the first guy I could think of that legitimately hurdled a guy in the middle of a football game. And then ever since then, it seems like every year or so we get somebody who just shows off that, they got the hops too, along with the power and the speed.
Yeah. It's
as he said in that interview you just had too, it's so instinctual. Like that's not something you plan. You don't wait for the ball to be snapped thinking I'm about to hurl, jump over this linebacker. Like that does not happen in your mind. But when a guy goes low like that, right? If you've got that in your bag, we always hear the coaches especially saying we don't ever want our running backs, to hurdle guys because there's a lot of injury potential there, right? But when you're in that moment and you've got that, ability to get up in the air, get your, what is it? He's got to be, 215, something like that. It looks like a big guy.
And I don't know how if you're a defensive back in high school, like I don't even know, I'm thinking so what would be in my mind is, okay, if I try to go low, he's probably going to try to hurdle me, but I don't want to go in stationary because he's got the power to run me over. So, I'm not even sure if you're a high school defensive back, how you would even want to approach that.
You don't. That's the answer. You don't approach that. You hope the linebacker gets there first, and if not, you kind of go Ephesians Prysock with what he did in the Mississippi State game. You force him out wide, force him inside, and let everybody else kind of pick him up.
Well,
and then you come in and try to rip the ball out.
You're hoping to wrap up, right? Because you're hoping to get those two legs together so they can't keep churning and so you can get them to the ground. And so the idea of going low is to wrap up those two legs, make sure that then that's really your only hope if you're undersized by 60 pounds or whatever. But if the guy's got the ability to get 35 inches in the air like that and get over you, then you just take the L.
Yeah.
Normally when guys in the NFL, this is an old turn of phrase that I learned from Jamie Dukes, the old Atlanta Falcons guard when he was on TV. When guys make you perform the Lord's Prayer, which is you go to wrap up and you miss everything and you clap your hands and you fall to your knees and you're just on the ground. Normally it's because the guy spun or juked you out of your shoes. You're not thinking you're going to do the Lord's Prayer with the guy jumping over the top of you. It doesn't normally happen that way.
Man, 520-848-1290. 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. Lots coming up again for you in the next hour. We're going to hear from the U of A coordinators and get you set more for the Wildcats and UTEP. We mentioned in the first part of this hour the new NBA rules, the player rules, and Dragon Ball, I don't know if we got your thoughts on that. So
I'm a little bit nervous about, again, it's always the lettering of the law that everyone wants to find the loophole behind it. The thing is that I've noticed with a lot of the teams that have these superstars, particularly I've noticed it with the Clippers, mostly because they're in the same division as the Suns, who I follow. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they're not listing them as resting. They're listing them as having injuries.
Yeah,
and Paul George has
always
a knee,
an injury attached.
and there's a knee and everything else like that. So in my mind, if you're going into this, you can only have the resting designation to one player. But if the other star player on your team who's been an all-star, who's been an all-NBA guy, if he has a tweak of something, you could still list him with an injury, meaning you can still sit both of your, quote, star players without breaking that rule. So, again, this is going to be a matter of how teams choose to work within the gray area, as they always do, as every player does, within the rules when new ones are instituted. So, color me a little bit cautious about whether or not this is going to really change that much in the NBA's grand scheme of things.
Maybe that'll be our question of the day tomorrow. What's your favorite phony injury designation in the NBA?
Hangnail.
Knee inflammation.
The funny thing is, Paul George and Kawhi, well, I don't know about Kawhi, but Paul George, I think Kawhi's old. I think he's a couple years older.
Yeah.
Paul George is 33 and a half. The cutoff is 35 at the start of the season. So if you're over 35, these rules don't apply. You're grandfathered in. Or if you've played a total of 14,000 NBA minutes. And Paul George has played 26,000. So Paul George would fall into that category of a veteran who... These rules are geared towards the younger players in the NBA.
So the younger
not
stars.
sitting out.
So this doesn't even apply to LeBron.
Well, it does apply. Again, this is back-to-back. So in a back-to-back, you can't sit a player without, unless they're on the injured reserve list, you can't sit a player. But there are exceptions to players who are of certain age or players who have played a certain combined number of games, playoffs included, or number of total minutes. So Kawhi and George fall in that category of older players who clearly would probably be grandfathered into some kind of deal. They won't, Zion, Ja, these guys who are younger, off-court issues aside, the players who are putting butts in the seats, the YouTube superstars of high school guys, the people who are, what brings the casual fan. I want to go see what Zion can do, right? I don't like in the NBA, but I've seen some YouTube highlights of this guy. I want to be in the same building when he does one of those things he does. That's what we're talking about here is a lot of the star power of the NBA. Everybody knows LeBron. LeBron is 39, right? I think he'll be 40 by the time the season starts, something like that. So LeBron can sit out games. I don't think the commissioner's going to have problems with that. They're going to have real problems with guys who are only playing 60, 63 games a year. They made that new rule last year, guys, where players will no longer be eligible for postseason awards unless you've played at least 65 games. Is now the cutoff. You have to play at least 65 games to be eligible. I think Embiid played 64 and just barely made the cutoff in the last week of the season. The younger players, DK, those guys who are load management in your mid-20s, that's the problem.
That's a funny term there, load management. All right. Speaking of old basketball players in their 40s, for the first time in 10 years, the WNBA playoffs are going to begin and take place without the team from the desert. The Phoenix Mercury are not in it. They were terrible this year. They finished with the worst record in the WNBA at 9-31, despite the fact that they've got two legendary players in women's basketball in Diana Taurasi, who is 41 years old, and Brittany Griner, who missed all of the 2022 season while she was incarcerated in Russia. They fired their coach mid-season, a coach they probably should have never hired in Diana Nygaard, who just had never brought any WNBA experience to the table. And obviously, this was a season that, I'm sorry, Vanessa Nygaard. I think I called her Diana. Vanessa Nygaard. This was a season that Brittany Griner came back to play. There was a lot of pomp and circumstance around that. But it wasn't a season in which she had a full offseason to prepare for. So she wasn't at her best. She battled through some injuries. She took some time off to get herself together mentally. She was coming back and dealing with a lot. Harassed going through airports early in the season. So it just wasn't a season that really was set up for a lot of success for Brittany Griner, and as a result, there wasn't a lot of success for this team as a whole. Both Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi said the other day that they plan to come back. It'll be the 20th season for Diana Taurasi, who is the all-time leading scorer in the league. Now, it got interesting at the exit interviews on, today's Wednesday, so this was Monday, because the Mercury were without another star player this season, another all-star in Skylar Diggins-Smith, who had a baby in the offseason, had that baby right before the season started, and then never came back from maternity leave. There were issues with her in 2022 between her and Vanessa Nygaard. Obviously, Vanessa Nygaard is no longer there, but there was issues during that 2022 season between Skylar Diggins-Smith and Diana Taurasi, a very well-publicized altercation, verbal altercation that took place on the bench during a game. So here is the question that was asked to Diana Taurasi on Monday.
I know this kind of hung over the team this year, but would you be open at all to Skylar coming back?
Next question.
Next question. The star of your team, the star of this franchise, the face of this franchise for the last 19 years, basically just came out and said, yeah, no. We don't really need Skylar Diggins back here in Mercury, in a Mercury uniform. Skylar Diggins-Smith, one of the best players in the league. And this is a team that finished last, 9-31. If you wanted drama, you got drama in Phoenix with this team. So our question of the day, and we'll get more into this in the next hour, our question of the day revolves around one Skylar Diggins. Do you want Skylar Diggins back next season in a Phoenix Mercury uniform? Right now, 57% of you say no. No more drama. 43% of you saying yes, Skylar Diggins balls. Head on over to our Twitter page right now, at Wildcats1290. We can take your calls on that in the next hour. This is DK on the Sports Tip. I'm David Kelly. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. We have a couple collisions, Ruthroff and Calle Riena. That's Calle Riena and Ruthroff. Thornydale and Cotero Farms Road, also Campbell Avenue and First Street, causing quite a bit of slowing down by the U of A area. You can use Grant Road instead. We have a chance of developing storms later on this evening. Overnight low is 67, and currently it's a cool 86 degrees outside. I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio, traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by AutoZone. Get in the zone. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help troubleshoot the likely cause of your pesky check engine light for free and help you save time and money down the road. Restrictions apply. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Enrolls you in recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Leaving for the gym so early?
I'm ready to go.
Since you started taking Nugenix Total T, you've been acting like when we met in our 20s.
I feel like myself again. Lower testosterone after turning 40 slowed me down. Nugenix Total T has been a game changer for me.
What is it about Nugenix Total T that's different?
Well, it's a patented key ingredient called testofen. It boosts free...
2020 sports.
Well, the Diamondbacks are still looking to try and stack wins after the team struggled against the Mets in Game 2 of their series out in New York. The Diamondbacks went ahead and fell victim to Pete Alonso's power swing in the 5th inning.
Alonso went into home run droughts at the same time, and Pete crushes this one to left field. That one's going to make it to the second deck. An Alonso polar bear special. It's at 105 RBI. Oh, boy, that's a hurry. Oh, boy.
The D-backs played from behind most of that game and couldn't find enough in the 8th inning rally as Ryan Nelson takes the loss. Arizona begins their 3rd game of the series today, now just a game ahead of the Cincinnati Reds in the wildcard race. Following the recent injury to Aaron Rodgers, the NFL Players Association has made a call for all teams to remove artificial turf from their stadiums and install grass to avoid future injuries of this nature. The home for the Jets in MetLife Stadium installed a new field surface called Field Turf, which is listed as softer and more forgiving on impacts than the previous synthetic turf the stadium had prior to this season. But the NFLPA has made it clear that the decision to move to all grass fields for the stadiums is the easiest decision the NFL can make, according to Executive Director Lloyd Howell. After 2020 Sports Update, we'll have more for you in the next Wildcats Radio 1290 update.
Live from the CNWT.
Wait, what's the CNWT?
Central Northwest Tucson. Duh.
It's DK on the Sports Tip with your host, David Kelly.
Radio. Just when I thought I was out, they drug me back in.
Featuring J.W. Madden.
Don't tell me about flip-flops, man. I'm a native.
David Amata.
Hey, that's Dragon Ball to you.
And Cricket getting you home with traffic and weather.
Camp on Mount Lemon, not in the left lane on the freeway.
Here we go! And now, a man who has not one, but 3 first names, David Scott Kelly.
We are coming down the home stretch of the Major League Baseball season. Playoff spots are hanging in the balance. Arizona is hanging on to one of those spots. Let's let you get updated on what's happening with your Snakes.
Diamondbacks download.
Baseball stuff! Baseball stuff!
All right, it did not go well in the Big Apple on Tuesday night. The Diamondbacks led early by a score of 1-0, but they were down in this ball game 4-1 in the 5th when Mr. Pete Alonso stepped up to the plate.
He crushes this one to left field. That one's going to make it to the second deck. An Alonso Polar Bear special, number 44 for Pete. And he just absolutely crushed it.
That's what Pete Alonso does. He absolutely murders baseball. 44 home runs on the season for Big Pete Alonso. A 7-4 win for the New York Mets on Tuesday night, and we are getting set for the next game in this series. It is about to start. 4:10, first pitch. This is actually a game. Actually, no, I thought it was nationally televised, but it is not. Zach Gallen will be on the hill for the Diamondbacks, 15-7 with a .331 earned run average. He will face Joey Lucchesi. That's a very New York name there. He's 2-0 with a 3.54 earned run average. D-backs are favorite in this game. The run line tonight, brought to you by Desert Diamond Casino, is at 152. That means if you put $20 on your Diamondbacks to win tonight, you got to bet a little bit more if you want to win some money, because you're only going to take home $13.20 with Zach Gallen favorite to win. The over-under tonight, it was 8 a few minutes ago. It is now dropped to 7.5 at 112 on the over. So a little bit more money on that $20 if you bet the over tonight. Again, 6:10 first pitch. Diamondbacks begin the night 1 game up in the wild card on that 3rd spot. They lead the Giants by 1 game and the Reds by 1 game. Both the Giants and the Reds 75-71. The Diamondbacks are 76-70. Arizona trails the Cubs by 1.5 and the Phillies by 3.5. Those are your 3 wild card teams at the moment: Philadelphia, Chicago, and Arizona. Did you see somebody put out a tweet I thought was interesting? They went through the entire season and they flipped all the one-run games to the other team, and basically the standings would not have changed. Like all the same teams were in first place. Pretty much it was like the same teams were leading. I think the same teams were in the wild card. It basically didn't do anything to affect the overall balance of the standings. Very interesting.
I mean, that's just what the MLB wants. They want more offense. However many one-run games you have, I don't know how many were in the pool that they went ahead and switched over, but you want teams to be scoring more than, winning by more than one run. They want more offense. They've been trying to speed the game up. You really want it to be more definitive in regards to victors. So I'm not really that surprised. Major League Baseball's been pushing for this change in the way the game's played. They don't want 1-0 games anymore, DK.
No.
They wanted to be 6-4. They wanted to be 7-5 and things of that nature. High scoring contests.
Braves are 95-50. They've got the best record in baseball right now. Baltimore at 91-53, the second best record in the game. The closest divisions right now, the American League West, Houston, Texas, and Seattle are all separated by one game, with the Astros on top. That is the division to watch right now. And, of course, in the American League East, the Orioles lead the Tampa Bay Rays by 2.5 contests as we head down the stretch for this Major League Baseball season. Arizona still with a chance to make it into the postseason.
I'm reading this article. You know why it didn't affect the Diamondbacks? Because they are 10-11 in one-run games. So 11-10, 10 or 11, not much of a difference.
There you go. Well, then that's interesting. How can I be? I think that's one of the things that people have always said, that the one-run games are the games that kind of even out across the course of an entire season. So interesting that there would not have been much of a difference there. All right. Let's go back. I want to play that cut again from Diana Taurasi when she was asked this week about Skylar Diggins-Smith.
I know this kind of hung over the team this year, but would you be open at all to Skylar coming back?
Next question.
Diana Taurasi. I mean, is it fair to say that she is the Phoenix Mercury at this point?
When you consider how long she's been there, how long she's been a mainstay in WNBA conversations, I think it's safe to say that she is to the Mercury what you would describe, I would say, like maybe what Butkus is to the Bears or what George Halas is to the Bears. That's the on-the-court mascot for the franchise, and it will stay that way for a long time. Deanna, if she's got this level of, I don't want to call it animosity, but at the very least to that question, she clearly did not want to hear that question. And that's not Deanna. She's an aggressive competitor, but she's never one to run away from a question.
Well, going back, I think, to her college days, she was always very curt. She was always very to the point,
Yes.
very serious about anything like that. So clearly she has a very strong opinion about the answer to that question, and the answer being no. Interesting that Sue Bird actually has played more games than Diana Taurasi. So Diana Taurasi going into her 20th season, right? I was just looking up all-time games played. 580 for Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi 529. So to answer your question, all with the same franchise, right? All the same. So she has to be, obviously has always been the face of the Mercury. And because this is the first year, DK, like you've been mentioning, that they haven't been in the playoffs in over 10 years, that level of success also lets you be in a lot of homes to casual fans who might not be watching Mercury games during the regular season, a lot of success in the playoffs as well. Clearly one of the most famous women sports figures in American history.
So then wouldn't you want an all-star back? Wouldn't you want another all-star on that roster?
I think
a big three in Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, Skylar Diggins-Smith, and then you might even be able to put a 3.5 in Sophie Cunningham into that conversation. I mean, that's four pretty good players. I mean, this is the one league, I think, where you can turn it around, and I think that's the general sentiment. You can turn it around pretty quickly. You can go from 9-31 to being back where they've been in the conversation the last 10 years for being a team that can make it to the WNBA
really quick,
Finals.
DK, in a vacuum, of course you want an all-star to come back on the roster in a vacuum. However, if you're 41 years old and the only player in the league's history to score 10,000 points, all-time leading scorer for 4 years, I think what Diana Taurasi wants is a chance to win games. And that statement alone of her saying no comment to me says regardless of Skylar Diggins' ability on the basketball court, more of a distraction is not what that will lend itself to the Mercury winning more games next year. She would know. Diana Taurasi knows that locker room better than anybody, so I trust her.
And going off of what you said earlier, DK, how quickly things can change around. Let's be reminded here. This team lost in the WNBA Finals just 2 years ago in 2021 to Chicago. Then the next year after that, they lose in the first round, and now they miss the playoffs entirely. For as quickly as you can start things back up, things can fall apart very quickly. Whatever system they had with Skylar, Deanna, and Brittany, it fell apart after that WNBA Finals appearance.
Well, remember she just got there too.
Yeah, but they didn't have Brittany at all last year, and then again they probably didn't have the right coach the first year that Diana and Skylar were playing together. I just think that this is something that I think you got to at least see if all these pieces can fit together. You got to first find the right coach, whether that's Nikki Blue, who was the interim for the end of the season, or whether that's somebody else. But I just get the feeling that, I ask myself, okay, well, if Diana Taurasi doesn't want you on the team, you got a new GM who can your new GM override the face of your franchise and said, well, I understand, Diana, that you don't want her on the team, but you're 41, she's 30 whatever, and still an all-star, and she's going to be on the team. You better do your best to make this work.
Well, look, when it comes to the coaching conversation, look, the guru of Go is not going to come back through that door. Paul Westhead is not going to come back to be the head coach.
Guru of Gold.
No, Guru of Go.
Go, okay.
Yeah, that was the name of his documentary on 30 for 30. But Paul Westhead's not going to be coming back to coach this Mercury squad. I don't know who they would have in line to potentially take over this position. Because this is not necessarily going to be an easy spot to come into.
Diana, in her press conference on Monday, appeared to sign off on Nikki Blue, which again makes me wonder if we talk about athletes running the show.
Le GM.
Yeah, is she exactly. Thank you.
I think, though, that there's, it's all nuanced, right? Because I've never once in 20 plus years of watching Diana Taurasi thought that person's out there for stats. She's always out there to win. She has never stepped onto the court without having winning being her top priority. That's very evident. Just watch Diana Taurasi play. So that being said, any decision making is not about padding stats. Want me to tell you the actual stats, guys? Diana Taurasi, she has 10,000. I just had it in front of me. Hold on one second. She's 3,000 points ahead of the second place in WNBA scoring history. Mm-hmm. This year, I actually have the highlight. You want to hear it?
Please.
Earlier this year, on the 8th of April, this happened.
Diana Taurasi may etch her name in the history books. Taurasi, 3. Diana's done it. She is 1 of 1. Taurasi is now the league's first 10,000-point scorer career.
So 10,000, that was her 10,000th point. Tina Thompson has 7,488, second place. She retired, right? Mm-hmm. So clearly there's nothing left to prove for Diana Taurasi, right?
No.
But that competitive spirit, go all the way back to her Connecticut days, guys. I'm telling you, I've never seen Diana Taurasi play for stats.
And they got a lottery pick, too, because they finished last. So they're going to get another dynamic player on that roster. And maybe that's why they think that, we got a lottery pick coming in. Maybe we don't need Skylar Diggins. It's going to be interesting to see the way this new GM goes in that respect. So that's our question of the day. Do you want to see Skylar Diggins back on this roster? Head on over to Wildcats 1290, our Twitter page.
You think it's maybe a Notre Dame Connecticut thing?
Could be. You never know.
Because Notre Dame came on.
Gino and Muffet were never real tight.
Notre Dame came on strong about 10 years ago, right, into the women's college basketball scene. And so that's right around the time Skylar Diggins-Smith, she's been in the league since 2013, about 10 years. Obviously, Notre Dame grad. I don't know.
And looking at the fact that you mentioned that they were going to have a lottery pick coming up, you got potentially Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Aaliyah Edwards, Cameron Brink, Paige Buchers. This is going to be a very deep top 5 for prospects in the WNBA draft coming up.
Yeah, there's some legitimate franchise-level players coming out of college.
She talked about Paige Buchers. We'll hear.
Of course she did. She's UConn.
We'll try to get Diana's thoughts, full thoughts in a little bit later. But we want to make sure we get you home every 20 minutes on the 5s with your traffic and your weather. Here's Christy.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather Together, sponsored by Jim Click Automotive Teams. We have a new collision at Sanders Road and Twin Peaks Road. Also some slowing at Benson Highway and Irvington Road due to a stalled vehicle. In the clearing stages, Ruth Roth Road and Calle Riena, Thornydale and Cotero Farms Road, and also clearing Campbell Avenue and First Street. Chance of showers tonight, overnight low 67, tomorrow mid-90s, and maybe 100 over the weekend. I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather Together.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. If you're like many people, you may think custom blinds is a job for...
2020 Sports.
Well, Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon gets set to take on a familiar face in the Giants as the former Philadelphia defensive coordinator talked about the challenges of facing off with two-star talents in quarterback Daniel Jones and running back Saquon Barkley.
Every year is a new year, you know what I mean? So, I mean, my familiarity is they're two really good players, you know, and understanding how we have to defend them because of their skill sets. You know, Saquon's a high-volume guy that can beat you in the run and pass game, breaks a lot of tackles, he's explosive, he has good vision, he's fast. Daniel, you know, he's got a big arm, he's hard to sack, he extends plays, he breaks tackles, he's a runner. They use him in a way that's makes it hard on a defense. So that's shown up, you know, from when we were playing them in the same division. That showed up against Dallas, and that's going to continue to show up because they do a good job of maximizing those two guys.
While the Giants are headlined by those two on offense, New York is still looking for their first points on the year after getting shut out in their opener last week. Well, another major injury to the Rangers pitching staff is now right-hander Max Scherzer is now going to miss the remainder of the regular season with a teres major strain in his right arm, and that will potentially go ahead and keep Scherzer out of the lineup even if the Rangers should make the postseason. However, they are saying that he won't require surgery. If you remember, Scherzer was acquired at the deadline by the Rangers in hopes that he would replace Jacob deGrom after they had to put him on the shelf also with Tommy John surgery. That's your 2020 Sports Update. We'll have more for you here on Wildcats Radio 1290.
DK on the Sports Tip on Wildcats Radio 1290.
All right, if you want to get in on this show today to talk about any of the stuff that we have been kind of toiling over, the new rules in the NBA in terms of players resting, whether or not Skylar Diggins should be back with the Phoenix Mercury because her and Diana Taurasi clearly are not friends. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. We do want to hear from your U of A coordinators who spoke on Tuesday. Brennan Carroll on the offense, Johnny Nansen on the defense. Here is what they had to say.
That's it?
I'll start with two for Johnny. Johnny, just first of all, in terms of Marcel Irby, one of the things that Jeff Fish said yesterday in terms of maybe why he didn't play as much in the second half was because everyone needs to be consistent down in and down out. Where does he need to be most consistent to stay on the field? And then on that third quarter touchdown from Mississippi State, both Jakario and Gunnar bit on the bubble. What's the proper technique for your
The first one, you know, everybody's got to know their assignment to stay on the field, you know, and be able to execute at the highest level. And, you know, we just felt at the second half we made some adjustment, you know, because we wanted to run some of our calls that we held on in the first quarter. So, you know, to have 14 in there, DJ was you know, will be able to execute some of those calls. And then on that touchdown, it's just we practice bad eyes. Guys are not locking in on their keys. We're playing man-to-man, and we turn our guys loose. That was the bottom line. We got to be able to do better. We got to be disciplined. We got to execute the call when it's called.
Question for both. First with Brendan. What's the plan for Raymond Polito this week?
He's got to have a healthy week of practice to get on the field, and if he does that, then you know, I'm sure you'll see him out there.
Are you expecting him to practice this week? Or?
He will know more in about 2 hours, but yeah, I think so.
And then for Johnny, we saw a lot more Justin Flo in this game. What did you see out of him?
I mean, just he's got a motor, man. The guy, you know, he plays. You know, he gets all he's got, you know, and he makes plays, you know. It's all about who produce, and the guy's producing, you know, so we need to keep him on the field.
Is he kind of like your secret weapon for 12 personnel?
I like to play him more, you know. You just got to be comfortable with some of the calls that we have.
I have a question for both of you about first, Brennan. Josh Borjan, how do you think he performed against Mississippi State in that defensive line?
Yeah, Joe did. Joe had for the first time going out there and starting in an environment like that. He did admirable. Had some things we got to get cleaned up in the run game, but pass protection was pretty solid. Did a good job, you know, passing games and, you know, understanding what their front was, and so he handled himself well first time on the road.
For Johnny, defensively, I think you guys gave up 160 in the first half rushing yards, and then you're able to cut that down. What was the difference between the two halves? With
the first drive, we gave up, I think, 65 yards or something like that, and it was, you know, one of those second game of the year. They come up with new plays we haven't seen, and once we adjust to it, you know, and the guys saw it, you know, we stopped it in the second half.
Damian and Brian,
Brennan, what was your immediate reaction to Jaden's fake spike?
Immediate reaction, a little bit of disbelief, but he relied on his teammates to find a way to get him in there, and the guys reacted well to kind of an unplanned thing. But yeah, it was cool to see us find a way to make that play. I'm glad it worked out.
Brian? Brendan, do you think the shuffling of the offensive line and not having that consistent five so far, has that had any impact on the run game?
No. The thing that got us last week and got us the last time we played these guys is they do their scheme really well, and it's hard for all the teams that have gone against them to run the ball consistently in any form. They do a great job with their scheme. We thought we had a great plan for it, and we were just everyone has to be perfect on every play to do something right. And so if you got one guy off, it ain't gonna work. So we were across the board. We weren't consistent enough in that on that evening.
Do you anticipate a greater emphasis in trying to establish the run in this next game?
No, there isn't. In my mind, personally, there is no such thing as establishing the run. I would like to run the football because I like to run the football, not because we need to do it or there's any reason. It just fits in the game plan. I think we're always going to have some kind of balance. We like throwing the ball, but we need to be a really consistent running football team. And however we get to that, whether it's running the ball 30 times the first half or 30 times the second half, we're going to find a way to keep that balance and keep all of our playmakers with the ball in their hand.
Two for Brennan here. Brennan, just in terms of Warjan, really any of your outside tackles, what are the key elements in them beginning to develop their footwork to being really good at that? And then in terms of the pockets, I mean, Jaden's had some really nice pockets in both of these games. What are you lacking about the way that you guys are doing in the past?
Yeah, our protection scheme is built inside out, meaning we got to protect the inside first and let those guys rush up the field in the most simplest terms. Joe's done a great job transferring what he had from high school and junior college to what we do here. It was a process. It took time. He wasn't really ready until, kind of late spring. We kind of knew that he had something to work with. So his development over the time he's been here has been fantastic. Big Jonah being able to transition from a guard to a tackle. There is a transition there. Just we've talked about it before, but just having to deal with more space and trusting. The fundamentals, and always keeping your feet in the ground and never getting on your toes or getting off balance. It's, once again, goes back to balance. But so he's done a great job, and the other guys have as well. Jordan, his recovery and all that. So.
Question for each of you. First for Brendan. If Raymond is healthy, would you be comfortable putting him in that starting lineup, or is it something where you kind of want to see him build? And I mean, is there a game sheet?
No, we were ready to start him week one, and then he got injured. So I don't have any problem putting him in the game.
And then for Johnny, what has Bill Morton meant to this defense overall?
A lot. He come from a great program, and a big guy that can hold the middle, eating up all the double teams. When you look at the stats, both linebackers made 12 tackles, and that's credit to the D line. They're taking up a lot of blocks and staying near gaps and stuff like that. So having him here has been really helpful for our guys in the room too.
Yeah, on offense as well. Bill's been a fantastic leader, both on and off the field. Always got a good attitude. Always working. Always, he's always been a great teammate. So it's great to have him. He's done a lot, for both sides of the ball.
One for each. Obviously, we know that one of the principles of the program is to protect the ball. We also have the quarterback who has thrown 5 interceptions so far, 4 in the last game. So what are the conversations like between the coaches or between the coaches and the quarterback about how to clean that up?
Yeah, it's obviously it's a huge focus, and the turnovers can come from a variety of places. Obviously, on the stat sheet, it goes to the quarterback. There's a lot of things we need to clean up across the board, from protection to the routes, to the formations, making sure we're all in the right places, because even one little thing, you saw those turnovers. There was one time he threw it right to somebody, but then the other balls are flying all over the place and just flying right to guys off of tip balls, off of very close plays. So obviously he's got to have a great conscience for it and make sure he's not making plays that he's giving them anything easy. But, those guys are good too. But we will have a great mind for the ball. He's very well aware of, what that means to our program. So it's across the board. We all need to pitch in.
And for Johnny, how do you see the free safety situation right now? Is it still pretty clear cut that Gunner is that guy, or do you feel like you just envision rotating?
Yeah, everybody's going to get to play. The best guys and the guys that are ready to play this week are the guys going to start. If it's Gunner or Genesis, those will be the guys. You know what I mean? I trust all of those kids back there. They're capable. IT came in and played really well. You look at what we did in the first half, not having Gunner, and not having Stukes. The back end held up, so I trust in what they're doing back there. So, whoever we felt like is ready to play is going to play this week.
Midway through the season last year, when there's lineup changes and all that, we saw the defensive growth. Now you have a game like against Mississippi State where, yes, you give up 31 points, but it felt like a really good defensive performance. Just what have you seen from your defense in terms of the growth from mid last year to this season at this point?
Oh, it was a good game, but there's a lot of room for growth. We need to improve with our technique. We gave up big plays because of lack of technique, so we got to go back to fundamentals and then the execution of the call. The touchdown we just talked about, that was bad eyes. Missed tackles and things like that on the last touchdown. Those are the things that we need to clean. If we could clean those up, then next week I'll be able to answer how well we're playing.
For Brandon, what exactly happened with Raymond's bike accident? What have you heard?
I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I was home already, so I don't have any comment on. I don't know what happened. I just know that he wasn't able to play for a couple weeks.
Jaden took off a lot in this game, especially compared to last year against Mississippi State, and we were able to get a lot of yards that way. How has that helped, or how does the offensive line have to deal with having a quarterback that is now more willing to take off?
And we've talked about it. These last 2 years, having quarterbacks that have been able to move around. You do have to have an adjustment for it. It is important that the offensive line has awareness, but they're real conscious of knowing that it may not be 3 seconds and the ball's out. It may not be 4 seconds and the ball's out. It may not be 8, 9, however long it takes. You have great awareness for that. And when he leaves the pocket, we've got our rules, understanding that we can't be holding guys and we can't be locked on, because then it just immediately negates whatever he can create. So.
Is there a worry that if they have to keep an eye on the quarterback along with their defender, they could?
No, you don't. We don't ever watch the quarterback. We just have to trust. So we're facing that way. He's facing that way. We're not looking back. We're never looking to see where he is. You can tell when the rush lanes change, when the defensive linemen, when they start to work out of the, you got to feel that, and you got to understand that that he's going over there. Now I got to go chase it down. Just trust that it's going to happen. So we do rep it. We do practice it. It is important to have that awareness. So our guys have done a pretty good job for the most part.
David and Jason.
You're welcome.
Johnny, obviously Kumuli read that last play right. He was there to make it. What do you say to him after that in terms of coaching up on how he could just finish that better?
Just don't hesitate. The call was for you to hug the back. Go hug the back. If you would have just, do what he does at practice, it probably would pick the ball. You know what I mean? And then when you get in position to make the tackle, trust in your ability to make the tackle and don't dive for his feet. He was in position just to wrap him up and bring him down. Those are learning experience, and, I know he felt bad about it, and he's going to learn from it.
Go hug the back, Daniel Humuli. That was the message from his defensive coordinator, Johnny Nansen. Getting you home every 20 minutes on the fives with your traffic and your weather.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio, 1290 traffic and weather together. We have a new collision at Golf Links and Camino Seco. That's Camino Seco and Golf Links. Still seeing some slowing from an earlier collision at Sanders Road and Twin Peaks Road, and in the clearing stages, Campbell Avenue and First Street. And we're also still seeing some slowing on Benson Highway and Irvington due to a stalled vehicle. Chance of showers tonight, overnight low 67, tomorrow mid-90s, and maybe 100 over the weekend. I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio. 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blind.
Wildcats Radio 1290. 2020 Sports.
Gunner, you know, and not having Gunner, you know, and not having Stooks.
The defensive rotation in the backfield will be something to watch for the Wildcats this Saturday against UTEP, as Coach Johnny Nansen said that all the guys in the room will be seeing some action on the field this Saturday.
Yeah, everybody's going to get to play. You know, the best guys and the guys that are ready to play this week are the guys going to start. If it's Gunner or Genesis, those will be the guys. You know what I mean? I trust all of those kids back there. They're capable. You know, IT came in and played really well. You know, you look at what we did in the first half, not having Gunner, you know, and not having Stooks. The back end held up, you know, so I trust in what they're doing back there. So, you know, whoever we felt like is ready to play is going to play this week.
Just a reminder, again, the Saturday's game against UTEP will kick off at 8 p.m. Arizona time. Be sure to check for tickets on ArizonaWildcats.com for some seats. Many of the sections currently in the stadium are currently listed with low availability for the game this weekend. As was expected, the NBA has officially ruled in favor of the association's competition committee to ensure that star players will not be sitting and resting during nationally televised games or during the new in-season tournament games, as the Board of Governors approved a policy that will allow the league to fine teams starting at $100,000 and eventually increase the penalties to $1 million. The star player designation is defined by the policy as players who have been on an all-star team or all-NBA team the prior 3 seasons. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal for the Suns all fit that category. That's your 2020 Sports Update. We'll have more for you here on Wildcats Radio 1290.
DK on the Sports Tip on Wildcats Radio 1290.
520-848-1290. 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. You heard Johnny Nansen before the break and talking about the defense, and they're in that 2020 update by Dragon Ball as well. Don't forget, we are going to be at Illegal Pete's all season for Bear Down Fridays. We'll be out there this week as well. Show begins at 3 o'clock. We'll be out there through the show at 6, maybe a little bit later. Stuck around and watched a little bit of the pep rally during the first week of the season. They had a really great group of coaches that came out, and I heard a little birdie told me that J-Dub snuck backstage and did some elbow rubbing a couple Fridays ago.
The thing is, like, I don't think I'd ever really met Mr. Hickey before, and so I've interviewed him here in person, and I'd interviewed him here on the radio, 20 times. I saw him standing over there, so I walked over and introduced myself. Coach Lloyd was there as well. Really briefly, all I said, DK, you know what I said?
Yeah.
I just said thanks. I want to say thank you for everything you guys are doing for the university and the community. That's it.
That's awesome. Great to shake hands with Dave Hickey, Coach Lloyd, all those guys. Coach Lloyd got up there and brought the crowd down, I think, talked about it. So if you'll remember, so we'll get into this because I think it's look. So you'll remember, I think it was in the Pac-12 tournament last year because was I there? No, I wasn't at the men's. I went to the women's, but I was not at the men's. Well, anyway, the last game, he showed up at the press conference with a shirt that said BTFD. And obviously we all know what that means. It's a thing to, or I'm sorry, it's
Dragon Ball. You want to tell everybody?
FTD.
I know better than to say
FTD.
Yeah,
so it's a moniker that a lot of U of A fans. It's a takeoff on Bear Down with some some extra wording that goes to it. Yeah, that kind of thing. Well, apparently that didn't sit well with. He's worn it a couple times. I think he might have even worn it during the summer at one point. I thought I saw there might have been. I know I saw it again after that. The time that he wore it at the Pac-12 tournament. It was after they won it all. But apparently there's been an edict that he should not wear that or wear that shirt anymore.
There's a level of decorum, I think, for coaches. I will tell you this. I'm about the same age as Kelvin Ifon and Richard Dice. And I used to play basketball with Richard Dice and Kelvin Ifon at the rec center right after they built it. They built that thing in the early 90s. It was always full before Richard Jefferson Gym. So a lot of the basketball players were out there. Khalid, Damon. Richard Dice, in all bold letters, had a big FASU T-shirt that he would wear proudly all around campus almost every time I saw him.
Yeah.
But as far as coaching staff's concerned, maybe maybe best not to wear the BTFD thing around town. It's understandable.
We had a very similar shirt, I'll say, at the school in downtown Los Angeles. The school across town, kind of thing, that was very popular.
Well,
I'm sure
during school.
It's either you wear a shirt that's not very flattering to the school you're facing, or you change your fight song up a little bit. My dad told me about one that him and his fellow U of A students would sing when it was Territorial Cup week. Can't say any of it on the air, obviously, but it was to the theme of the U of A fight song. So, take it as you will. I mean, that's good, healthy rivalry. I mean, that's what that is.
Absolutely. You got to go up and paint their a different color from time to time, right? Or go and paint the bear cardinal and gold, or now I don't know if you guys are familiar with the tradition at the school at downtown Los Angeles. They immediately after the game, before the game against the school in Westwood, they wrap the statue that's on campus so that it can't be vandalized. Exactly.
Well, it can't be any worse than what happened with the original Oklahoma versus Texas rivalry. I mean, after all, that's how Bevo got his name. Did you ever hear about the story
No,
for
I don't
Bevo?
know if I know this story.
So it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was Oklahoma, Texas, and Oklahoma had beaten Texas 13-0. So they went ahead and they branded on the side of a Longhorn 13-0 on the side of the cow, and they sent it to Texas. They then decided to bring the cow back the next game, but the full name had been branded on the side of this cow. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, that must have been the worst afternoon that cow had ever gone through, to go ahead and have a 1 and 3 turn into a B. The dash was the middle for the E, and then you put a V in out of nowhere, and then you put the O, and that's what made the Longhorn Bevo.
Wow.
My favorite's always been the Army-Navy rivalry.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a goat involved, right? And there was a tradition of stealing the goat.
Okay.
So each class that came in, they had to steal the goat. That was a thing for a long time. Stealing the opponent's mascot. Now, stealing it with the intention of transporting it in safety and being, obviously reverent to making sure that the animal is safe and secure, and nothing treacherous or bad. But stealing the mascot the night before, I think it was the couple of nights before, was always a tradition with that Army-Navy rivalry.
The goat. Well, how does a goat fit into that rivalry?
I believe the Navy mascot, if you look at like the Navy football mascot, I believe it's a ram with an N draped over the back, if I'm not mistaken. Because the Army is the Black Knights. I think the midshipmen, their logo for their football program is a ram with the...
Billy the Goat.
Yes.
Billy the Goat.
Billy the Goat?
Yep.
So is that where that famed Billy Goat thing comes from?
I'm sure that came long before, because this was 1953 that the tradition started.
Curse of the Billy Goat, isn't that the Cubs thing?
Yeah. That's the Cubs for not letting a man bring his goat into Wrigley Field.
You're also not allowed to walk your camel in Arizona without a diaper, too. That's still on the books. So
You're not allowed to have a hippopotamus on top of a roof of a building
without
in
a
Florida.
diaper.
Yeah, it's used to be one of my favorite things to do is look up laws that are
look up
super
bizarre
outdated.
laws.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones
Good time.
is you're not allowed to cross the U.S.-Canadian border in Minnesota with a chicken on your head. That is apparently an actual law.
Don't do
my
it.
Gosh.
They do not like that.
Where do these how did we get on weird laws of the land?
Well, mules and goats and all that, and it's a natural transition, I think.
Man, we went from rivalries and painting mascots to wearing chickens over your head to cross into Canada.
Back to the original thing, though. I mean, I love the attitude of Coach's T-shirt, and I think he walks around with that attitude daily. I don't think it's going to change whether or not it's written on his shirt or not. Let's just be clear about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy Lloyd, he definitely has that. He has the chutzpah, I guess is that the word they use?
Chutzpah.
It is, yeah.
Chutzpah.
It's either BTFD or he's wearing an AC/DC shirt. Or what? No,
It
was a Beastie Boys shirt.
That's so the takeoff of the BTFD is from the AC/DC, right? Isn't AC/DC have something to do with it, or
I think what I misspoke. I believe the shirt he came out to was Beastie Boys because he's a big Beastie Boys fan. Was Tommy Lloyd?
All of us who grew up in the 80s are Beastie Boys fans. Let's just be clear about that.
You got to fight for your right to party.
Well, it's just the attitude in general. They opened a park last week. Did you see that?
The Beastie Boys?
Yeah, they opened a park, and the living members were there last week. I thought about Coach Lloyd, actually. My sister was super into Beastie Boys in the early 80s. Paul's Boutique came out, and she just went crazy for that. I was a little too young, I think, at the time. I was like 11 or 12.
I saw them in 1986 in Chicago.
Yeah, the only time I ever saw them was at, I think, Lollapalooza one year. They were
saw them
involved.
twice, actually. I saw them in Chicago in 1986, and then I saw them at Red Rocks in 1988. It's the only show that I've ever been to at Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado. And I recommend that you put that on your bucket list.
Paige.
It is a fabulous place to see a performance.
Paige tells me at least once a day about Red Rocks and how she has to go to a show there. That's her dream. That's a dream vacation, DK. It could be Paris, could be Venice. No, it's Red Rocks to go see the Avett Brothers. That's her dream.
There you go. All right, coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, we will talk to Troy Hutchinson from GoAZCats.com about your Arizona Wildcats football team. Wrap up Mississippi State, get you set for this weekend's game against the UTEP Miners. This is DK on the Sports Tip with Dragon Ball, J-Dub, and Christy. I'm David Kelly. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. We're seeing some slowing for both east and westbound I-10 from Speedway to the I-19 interchange. Also slowing on westbound I-10 from Prince Road to the construction zone. Wilmot Road south of I-10 is closed due to flooding. You can use Houghton Road instead. Also, a chance of showers tonight, overnight low 67, and tomorrow mid-90s. Currently, it is 85 degrees. I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. And right now, save 50% off any order during our Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
This is Jim Rome with your Rome Report. 2 days out, we're still processing the most Jets thing ever. Even the Jets are still processing the most Jets thing ever.
from the CNWT.
Wait, what's the CNWT?
Central Northwest Tucson. Duh.
It's DK on the Sports Tip with your host, David Kelly.
Radio. Just when I thought I was out, they drug me back in.
Featuring J.W. Madden.
Don't tell me about flip-flops, man. I'm a native.
David Amata.
Hey, that's Dragon Ball to you.
And Cricket getting you home with traffic and weather.
Camp on Melt Lemon, not in the left lane on the freeway.
Here we go! And now, a man who has not one, but 3 first names, David Scott Kelly.
(13-2) run, and how can they get a stop? Inbound Parker. Parker inside. Bounce past McDonald. Atlanta back in front.
They could have died, but now there's so much time still left on this clock to get things going.
Oh, this is where you just sorely miss Aaliyah Ball.
Harry McDonald in the WNBA playoffs for the first time in her career. Hit a game-winning basket a few weeks ago to help the Atlanta Dream. They are the 5th seed in this tournament, which is just getting underway. We've got Minnesota and Connecticut tonight. Connecticut, the 3rd seed. Minnesota, the 6th seed. Later on tonight, it'll be the defending champions, the Las Vegas Stars. And Las Vegas will be taking on Chicago. Las Vegas finished the season 34-6. The Sky at 18-22. I believe the Sky are the number 8 seed in this tournament. And then the Atlanta Dream will play tomorrow. That is Aries' team will play against the Dallas Ball Club. And Aries this season averaged 8 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists as she heads into her first. And that's a pretty good turnaround for the Atlanta Dream franchise, who did not play well last year as a group, had to change their coach early in the season. Their coach left, actually, and went to go coach at Baylor. And they had an interim coach for most of last season, but now getting a chance to get back into the postseason in the WNBA playoffs. They'll take on the Dallas Wings. That'll be tomorrow night. You can watch that game tomorrow night on ESPN2. It will start at 6:30 Tucson time, the Atlanta Dream against the Dallas Wings.
How do you feel about half of the field having sub 500 records?
Well, it was a league where kind of everybody beat everybody up.
So Atlanta's the 5th seed. They're 19-21 on the year.
Yeah.
The 8th seed, Chicago Sky, 18-22. So obviously no separation between those two teams. It really looks just top heavy, right? Because Vegas finishes with 6 losses. The Liberty had 8 losses on the year. The Sun, 13. Everybody else is in that 20-loss range, and you have to have 8 teams make the playoffs. So almost like 3 teams at the top and everybody else fighting over the rest.
Well, yeah, you had 1, 2. If you start with Dallas, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you had 6 teams that had a legitimate shot of making it.
Yeah, parity.
Yeah. And that's what you want. You want teams that are evenly made out to have a chance to play for a championship. And you look at the bottom of this roster, it was like a lot of the teams that didn't make it were teams that won some games. The Sky, they won their last 3 to get in, 3-game winning streak to get in to this thing. And then down at the bottom, you've got the Phoenix Mercury at 9-31. So they'll have the most. Does it work? Is it the same format for the WNBA? They'll have the most ping pong balls for the draft.
I'm not sure, actually. I don't know how the WNBA draft works. I'll have
They're
to look into that.
guaranteed, obviously, of a lottery pick to go along with this roster, and that's our question of the day today. There's a lot of animosity, clearly, between the star and franchise, face of this franchise, Diana Taurasi, and fellow All-Star Skylar Diggins-Smith, who did not play this season after having a baby back in late April, early May. And so the question of the day is, do you want Skylar Diggins-Smith back next season in a Phoenix Mercury uniform? Right now, in this poll, most of you, it's actually still pretty tight. Still pretty tight poll in terms of the votes over at Wildcats 1290. 57% saying no Skylar. 43% saying yes, we want us some Skylar.
Maybe there should have been a third option.
Next question.
Diana Taurasi. She's running this thing.
You know,
if you didn't know that Diana Taurasi was running this thing before Monday, now you know.
They did finish on an 11-game losing streak, and some simple math means that at one point they were.
Oh my God.
They were 9-19, and looking at these standings, you know, that's not too far out from a playoff berth if they finish the season less than an 11-game losing streak.
They were 1-19 on the road.
Oh, yeah, no. On the road, the Mercury have been very bad. Number 2 in attendance in the WNBA this season.
Yeah. Great fans.
They had good home. They had a pretty decent home record in comparison to the road record, but when your road record is 1-19, anything looks better than that.
How about 2-18 in the conference?
That's not good at all. You can't win when you're only two.
No.
You only win 2 games against your immediate competition.
All right, let's wrap up our question of the day from yesterday. How many games will the AC Cardinals win this season? 60% was the winner. 60% said what Dragon Ball said, 4 games or less. After that, it was 20% said 5, 10% said 6, 10% said 7 or more. They get the Giants this weekend. Josh Dobbs will be the quarterback for your Arizona Cardinals. Let's hear some of what Josh Dobbs had to say at his press conference earlier this afternoon.
After getting a chance to kind of marinate on what you did that first game and watch the film and everything, what did you take away from that?
I think just looking back at the game, there's just a couple plays that obviously we want back and a couple of things we can do to clean up to put us in a better opportunity to win the game, right? It's great to have a chance to, obviously, you're emotional flying home on the plane, watching the game. You watch it from an emotional standpoint the first 2-3 times on a long plane ride. And then, Monday being able to come in and dive into the film, talk about it more objectively, was great to see, like, hey, how can we get better as an offense? How can we sustain drives? How can we not stop ourselves from moving the ball up and down the field? And so there's a lot of opportunities to do that, and that's why, we have practice. Had a great day today of cleaning up those operations. Obviously at home, but a little easier than a road crowd. So being able to clean up those operations, clean up those 2, 3, 4 plays that really the game came down to on Sunday. Yeah, I think, it's just focus, right? It's focus, discipline, just little things. And it starts with me at quarterback, but also sharing that with the guys that you never know which play it might be. You never know which third down it might be. You never know what 1st and 10 it might be, which run, which pass, which catch. So you have to stay locked in and focused throughout, a 70, 80 play game to maximize each and every play. Every play is extremely valuable. And so as an offense, we got to take advantage of each of them.
Arizona Republic, good to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you, Greg.
Sorry to interject there.
No worries, you're good.
You talked about watching the game on the plane. You're emotional, you're frustrated. How frustrating is it to lose a game?
Yeah, it's always, we're all competitors, right? So, we pour so much into these games week in and week out. That is frustrating when you go out and lose, especially when you expect to win, especially when you had opportunities to win. And so that's the nature of the game. You never want to lose that because that feeling, you don't want to feel it each and every Sunday, right? So you want to do whatever it takes on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday up until the game to feel the other side of it. And so for me, my rule is like 2 p.m. on Monday, flush the last game. Let's move on to the next one, whether it's a win or a loss, because each game is independent of each other. And so you still have to put in that same preparation and discipline to prepare each and every Sunday.
The offense is going to look, Josh, once you guys are able to open things up a little bit, go deeper maybe a little bit?
Yeah, I think the goal on offense is to get the ball in playmakers' hands. We have a lot of guys, James Conner, Zach Ertz, Rondell Moore, Hollywood, of course. Mike does a great job going down the field, making contested catches. Trey did a great job making plays. So obviously it was our first game out there as an offense. for sustained snaps and sustained drives. And so we'll have a ton of growth from week 1 to week 2, and we'll continue to grow as we continue to gel and mesh and get on the same page. So the offense will continue to get more efficient. And as it gets more efficient, we'll be able to sustain drives, create more explosive plays, get the ball in our playmakers' hands quicker, and allow them to do what they do with the football.
All right, that is Josh Dobbs, the quarterback of your Arizona Cardinals. It'll be the Cardinals and the New York Giants coming up Sunday at State Farm Stadium, the home opener for the 2023 season. Joining us now is the fourth member of our program. She has got her U of A colors on.
Always.
You're ready.
Always.
But I understand, Christy, that you have never been to a U of A football game?
I have not.
Oh, my gosh. We got to get you to a game.
I would love to. I mean, last year I really wanted to. I even had tickets to the U of A ASU game.
Ooh. And you didn't go?
Oh, somebody had to work.
Oh, wow.
And I won tickets, and that's actually what got me started is I won tickets to a football game.
Uh-huh.
And I came here to pick them up, and they were like, hey, we're hiring. So I applied and got the job. That's how I got my job here. But I couldn't even go to that game because I had to work. So I gave my tickets to my boss.
Your life is all. It sounds like your life is all about working, Christy. We need to have some. We need to have some fun.
Yeah.
Please tell me, because so we found out earlier this week that Cricket's never been to the wineries here in Southern Arizona. Please tell me you've been to the wineries.
I have.
Okay.
I usually end up being the DD, but that never works out real well either.
All right. I was like, my goodness, we're thinking about taking the show down to a winery, because Cricket's never been to one.
Well, as long as I get to go too, please.
There you go. But
Okay.
but last year you got to go to this past spring, you got to go see the Wildcats play in the Pac-12 tournament, basketball tournament.
I
right?
did
How
up
was
in
that?
Vegas. Oh, it was amazing. We actually met somebody there who was a huge U of A fan, and they had like these seats like where you got to go underneath the stadium and got all this free food. But he also had these other seats that he wasn't using that were like 4 or 5 rows back from the floor. So he gave them to us. And we got to sit right there. Of course, not for a U of A game, but the other games.
Okay.
And it was amazing. And of course, I had a bunch of people that I was with who were also UCLA fans. So, I had to bring U of A stickers for your face and pom-poms. And I lost my voice. It was,
As you do.
It was the best games ever. I mean, I was so happy. It was once in a lifetime thing for me. I loved
All right,
it.
so do you have plans to go to a football game this year? I mean, is there a Saturday you have off, or which one are you going to?
Not that I have off, but I might be able to get off early so that
Because
I can
mail
go.
does get delivered on Saturdays, I understand.
The mail never stops.
It never stops. And the bad thing is it's not that Saturday that's the problem. It's that I have to be at work again on Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like what happens on Sundays
We
at the post
deliver
office?
Amazon and first class parcels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
we've been
was it-
averaging about 200 parcels a carrier, and we have about 30 to 40 carriers on a Sunday.
So what are your days? So obviously Wednesday is one of your days off, I would take it.
Mhm.
And what's your other day off?
That's it.
You get what? You have to work 6 days there?
Yep.
Wow.
Oh,
You're like-
through
you're
rain,
like-
through
you're like me.
No rain, no sleet, no,
You're like
no
me.
snow.
Working 6 days a week.
I work 6 days a week.
And welcome to the 6-day-a-week club right,
Right.
here. All right. Getting you home every 20 minutes on the 5s with your traffic. Filling in for Cricket is Christy.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather Together. We have a collision blocking the left lane on I-19 northbound near the I-10 interchange. We also have a couple collisions, Prince Road and Runway Drive, and Golf Links and Camino Seco. We're also seeing some significant slowing on westbound I-10 from Prince Road through the construction zone, and Wilmot Road is closed south of I-10 due to flooding. You can use Houghton Road instead. Chance of showers tonight, overnight low 67. Currently, it's a beautiful 82 degrees outside, and tomorrow, mid-90s. And I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather Together.
York. The Diamondbacks went ahead and fell victim to Pete Alonso's power swing in the 5th inning.
Alonso went to home run droughts at the same time, and Pete crushes this one to left field. That one's going to make it to the second deck. An Alonso Polar Bear special. It's at 105 RBIs. Oh, boy. That guy's in a hurry. Oh, boy.
The D-backs played from behind most of that game and couldn't find enough in the 8th inning rally as Ryan Nelson takes the loss. Arizona begins their 3rd game of the series today, now just a game ahead of the Cincinnati Reds in the wildcard race. Following the recent injury to Aaron Rodgers, the NFL Players Association has made a call for all teams to remove artificial turf from their stadiums and install grass to avoid future injuries of this nature. The home for the Jets in MetLife Stadium installed a new field surface called Field Turf, which is listed as softer and more forgiving on impacts than the previous synthetic turf the stadium had prior to this season. But the NFLPA has made it clear that the decision to move to all grass fields for the stadiums is the easiest decision the NFL can make, according to Executive Director Lloyd Howell. That's your 2020 Sports Update. We'll have more for you in the next Wildcats Radio 1290 update.
DK on the Sports Tip on Wildcats Radio 1290. It's the 5 o'clock hour, and it's time for our Arizona Insiders.
Am I late? No, my boy, you're just in time.
Each weekday, Wildcats Radio 1290 brings you all the latest news and opinions on U of A football and the Pac-12. So bear down, Tucson, and let's talk Arizona football. Our Arizona Insiders are brought to you by Coors Light, official corporate sponsors of Arizona Athletics. There's nothing like game day in Arizona.
And today's Arizona Insider is Troy Hutchinson from Go AZ Cats. Say that 5 times fast.com. He covers Arizona football for that website. He joins us now. And Troy, what did you make of the Wildcats' performance in Starkville, Mississippi in a 31-24 loss to Mississippi State?
Yeah, I think it shows growth by Arizona as a team overall, because that's a game where Arizona in the past goes down 14-0 on the road, and you're looking at a 52-14 game, not really competitive game in years past. And to Jed Fish's credit, and really to Johnny Nanson's credit, the defense was able to keep them in the game. It allowed Jaden Delora to make plays in the second half and late at the end of the first half with that quarterback sneak. And they just found a way to get back into the game. And, they had a shot to win it, maybe a T-Mac foot from barely winning that game or converting on that 3rd and short instead of kicking the field goal. But I think at the end of the day, it's a positive direction for Arizona. And, you clearly have to say 5 turnovers isn't good. You got to cut down on that. But overall, good step forward for Arizona.
Troy, do you think obviously through this first 2 weeks, the Pac-12 conference as a whole has been very good? 8 Pac-12 teams are ranked this week, which is the most ever by any conference not called the Southeastern Conference. We knew going in that this was going to be a pretty good year for this conference on the football field. I think it's probably even better so far anyway than at least I thought it was going to be. How about you? Did you think it was going to be even kind of surpass what we've seen to this point? And I think a lot of that goes to the fact that nobody really knew what to expect from Colorado. I think we knew what we had in some of the other teams in this conference, but Colorado has pushed this conference into another stratosphere with the way that they've played through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, I didn't think that the Pac-12 would have 8 teams ranked at this point in the season. But when you look at the conference as a whole, it's a conference of quarterbacks. And that's the way you win in football, especially in college football. Yes, you have the offensive line and defense line of scrimmage wins games. But when you have signal callers, playmakers at the quarterback position, it's really good for programs and the teams. Colorado, to me, has been a little bit of a surprise. I didn't think they were going to win that game against CCU going into the season, and they handled their business and did very nicely. But I think you're going to learn more about Colorado as you go on throughout Pac-12 play, given the fact that, TCU, they lost their Heisman-winning quarterback, lost a couple playmakers on defense. So I think you're going to learn a lot from Colorado come Pac-12 play, but they're moving in the right direction, and Deion has them playing really well.
Troy Hutchinson, GoAZCats.com, joining us here, Arizona Insiders. The Arizona Insiders brought to you by Coors Light, Coors Light is a official corporate sponsor of Arizona Athletics. Coors Light, there is nothing like game day at Arizona. Troy, you mentioned quarterbacks, so let's talk about the Wildcats quarterback, Jayden de Laura, who was horrific to start the game on Saturday in Starkville. Obviously turned himself around, made plays to obviously lead the Wildcats into an overtime situation. I tweeted out very early, I said, I think this might be the first time that Jedd Fisch has to make a decision, or at least may have to make a decision about his quarterback and whether or not to pull him out of a game. But it's clear that Jedd's trust in Jayden is at a significant level for him to kind of say, hey, it's early. And again, I think that is that NFL mentality, which you don't always see it necessarily on the college level, but it's that NFL mentality that, look, it's the first quarter. We still got a whole lot of football to play. And he allowed his quarterback, kind of like we always say, when your pitcher's in trouble early, do you let him work himself out of it? And Jedd Fisch allowed Jayden de Laura to work himself out of it in that ball game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I probably would have gone to Noah after the third interception because it did not look very good for Arizona. But Jedd stuck with Jayden, and it paid off. And I think it shows that he's able to make plays that other quarterbacks on the roster right now can't. And yes, he has moments where you wonder, what the heck are you throwing that ball for? But he has moments where you're like, wow, I don't think, Noah Fafita could have made that play right now. I don't think Brandon Dorman could have made that play right now. So yes, he, Jekyll and Hyde mentality with Jayden de Laura, but I think right now at the end of the day, he does give Arizona the best chance to win. And he showed why out there on the field. And sometimes you live with the headaches and you celebrate the victories.
Joined by Troy Hutchinson, GoACCats.com. One of the interesting things that's come out of this week, Troy, has kind of been the situation with Martell Irby. We talked about it extensively yesterday. Dragon Ball here kind of took a look at the one play that he made down on the goal line and how actually he might have even been out of position there, which seems to have been kind of the emphasis that has led to, or at least in that ball game, led to him not playing as much in the second half. On the surface, obviously, it looks like he's playing well. But what have you made of kind of how that situation went down?
Yeah, I think it's one of those situations where the coaches see more than, the media and fans at home that are watching the game from afar. Being in position is highly important for Nanson's defense when you're running a 4-2-5. And so they went with DJ Warnell, and the defense seemed to, keep it going. They were able to keep going. There were some breakdowns in coverage later in the game, but clearly the move paid off. But I don't think it's anything long-term that Arizona fans should really keep track of. I do think when Trayden Stukes comes back and Irby is ready to go for the next game, they'll use those guys extensively. And he's one of those guys that you just have to have on the field because he's able to communicate what the coaches want to happen. Obviously, there are some issues against Mississippi State, but it's one of those situations you just move forward to the next game.
And we saw the arrival of Justin Flo, the guy that we had heard so much about, really came to fruition there in that Mississippi State game. Jed alluded that, he's going to have to play some more in moving forward. This is a good game, I think, for him now to get his feet wet, maybe get comfortable heading into Stanford in a week from now in the start of Pac-12 play.
Yeah, as Justin Flo told us before the season, he turns into him on the field, and that was him out there on the field for Arizona. I mean, 26 snaps. I didn't realize he played that few of snaps. And then you look at 12 tackles. I mean, the production at the linebacker position was great for Arizona. And when he was out of the game, you noticed it. I think it was on Mississippi State's go-ahead touchdown. You had the, I think, 2nd and 14, 3rd and 14 screen pass to their running back. And Daniel Hamuli tried to go for the legs and came up short and goes to the house for the touchdown, game-winning touchdown. That's a play that Justin Flo probably makes. Now, is he in position? I think that's what the coaching staff was trying to, get him to understand. You got to be in position. You got to play within the system. Would he have been in the position for that play? I don't know, but he was playing great in the game. And I think they're going to, open the door to Justin Flo being out there on the field more, because when he's out there, good things have happened for Arizona.
You got to hug him. You got to hug him up, hug through him, as Johnny Danton said yesterday. I thought that was an interesting way to kind of phrase the way you needed to make that tackle, or the way that Daniel Humuli needed to make that tackle in that ball game. Hug him and take him to the ground. Troy Hutchinson joining us from GoAZCats.com. UTEP coming in here for the final non-conference game on Saturday. This is a good ball game for this offense, I think, and this defense to kind of test themselves against obviously a lower opponent, but to really have a chance to work on getting some techniques finalized as you go into Pac-12 play. What are you hoping to see, Troy, in this game on Saturday?
I'm looking to see more consistency on both sides of the football. Even in the NAU win, Arizona's offense was pretty inconsistent at times, which is kind of weird to say in a 38-3 game. But you had turnovers, so I want to see limiting the turnovers. And then defensively, just don't give up the big pass play. Don't give up the big pass play over the top. We saw when Gunnar Maldonado came into the second half, even though the defense played well the whole entire game, that first drive, he gave up that pass play over the top, which they talked about a little bit. I don't think you can make these mistakes against UTEP. They're not a great football team, so I think you need to be dominant and show that you can just be consistent on both sides of the football. And, at the end of the day, I think Arizona's looking at around a 52-13 game. But that's if everything's clicking. But if it's not, then you're talking about a 35-14 game where, yes, they won dominantly, but they really weren't consistent on both sides of the football.
That's the interesting thing there, Troy. You said 52-13. I keep asking myself, am I taking the over this week, because they haven't covered the over in these first two games? This should be, like you said, the week that they put up some points. I don't know. I got to see it before I believe it, and I want to definitely see it this weekend. Troy, hey, we appreciate you taking some time to join us this week.
Have a good one, David.
Troy Hutchinson from GoAZCats.com.
Thanks to Coors Light for bringing you today's Arizona Insiders on Wildcats Radio 1290. Coors Light, official corporate sponsors of Arizona Athletics. There's nothing like game day in Arizona.
Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. Sponsored by Jim Click Automotive Team. We have a collision blocking the left lane, causing significant slowing for northbound I-19 near the I-10 interchange. Also a collision on Prince Road and Runway Drive, and Grant Road and Chrysler Drive, which is just west of Dodge Boulevard. We're also seeing some slowing on westbound I-10 from Prince Road through the construction zone, and Wilmot Road is closed south of I-10 due to flooding. You can use Houghton Road instead. Chance of showers tonight, overnight low 67. It's currently a beautiful 82 degrees outside, and tomorrow mid-90s. And I'm Christy with Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
We're looking for Tucson's ugliest cars. Even if it's not working, bring it to Jim Click and Holmes Tuttle and get a minimum $3,000 towards one of our 1,000 vehicles. For details, visit jimclick.com or call 520-690-5012.
This report is sponsored by the Window Depot.
The Window Depot is your go-to spot for Milgard windows and patio doors. Milgard offers beautiful, long-lasting, and energy-efficient windows and doors to help you create the perfect home. Build the home you deserve with custom Milgard windows from the Window Depot. Find a location near you at thewindowdepot.com.
1290 brings you the passion of football like no one else.
Pittsburgh 12, 3rd and 7 for Mahomes in the gun, flanked by the running back McKinnon. Shotgun snap, they rush 5, pump fake and a line drive into the end zone, over the shoulder catch in the back corner. It is caught for the touchdown. Grab by Pringle.
This season, 1290 will bring you almost 100 NFL and college football games. It's not flexing, it's just the truth. Scoreboard 1290, Wildcats Radio 1290.
At Lerner and Rowe,
We measure our success based on the amount of money we recover for our clients. And we're proud to say that we've collected billions of dollars for them. And no, it didn't take a gazillion years to do it. In the past 5 years alone, Lerner Rowe has recovered over $1 billion.
'90s 2020 Sports.
Well, Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon gets set to take on a familiar face in the Giants as the former Philadelphia defensive coordinator talked about the challenges of facing off with two-star talents in quarterback Daniel Jones and running back Saquon Barkley.
Every year is a new year, you know what I mean? So, I mean, my familiarity is they're two really good players, you know, and understanding how we have to defend them because of their skill sets. You know, Saquon's a high-volume guy that can beat you in the run and pass game, breaks a lot of tackles, he's explosive, he has good vision, he's fast. Daniel, you know, he's got a big arm, he's hard to sack, he extends plays, he breaks tackles, he's a runner. They use him in a way that's makes it hard on a defense. So that's shown up, you know, from when we were playing them in the same division. That showed up against Dallas, and that's going to continue to show up because they do a good job of maximizing those two guys.
While the Giants are headlined by those two on offense, New York is still looking for their first points on the year after getting shut out in their opener last week. Well, another major injury to the Rangers pitching staff is now right-hander Max Scherzer is now going to miss the remainder of the regular season with a teres major strain in his right arm, and that will potentially go ahead and keep Scherzer out of the lineup even if the Rangers should make the postseason. However, they are saying that he won't require surgery. If you remember, Scherzer was acquired at the deadline by the Rangers in hopes that he would replace Jacob deGrom after they had to put him on the shelf also with Tommy John surgery. That's your 2020 Sports Update. We'll have more for you here on Wildcats Radio 1290.
DK on the Sports Tip on Wildcats Radio 1290.
All right, let's go back out to the celebrity hotline and chat with one of the members of the Arizona volleyball team. She is a new member of the team, having transferred over from the school in downtown Los Angeles this season. Jordan Wilson, she's a sophomore. She joins us on the program now. Wildcats getting set for the Classic this weekend. They'll have 3 games coming up: Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So the ladies will play tomorrow night against Long Beach State. That'll be at 6 o'clock. Friday at 6 against New Mexico State, and then 12:30 on Saturday against Alabama State. And Jordan, first of all, welcome. You guys had a very interesting trip last week to Madison, Wisconsin, to play the number 1 team in the country. And was it a raucous environment? How do you think the team handled playing in front of that loud crowd in Madison?
Hi, well, first, thank you for having me. I think our team did really well. I think it was a really exciting and fun experience for our team. We went into the match super excited to play, obviously, the number 1 team in the nation, excited to get better, learn what we need to improve on, what's working for us, and just performing in front of a crowd that large. It was ecstatic. Like, the energy was crazy in the arena.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We saw that crowd there, and then the week prior to that, Nebraska had the game at the football stadium where there was 90,000 people. What was the talk around the team of that whole situation there and a volleyball team playing in front of 90,000 people?
Really, the talk of the team was just how great it was for women's sport and, like, how exciting it was that it would happen to be volleyball, which is the sport that we happen to love and play. And just being able to see that happen for women and for women's sports in history, like, that's just a huge accomplishment. And it's just so amazing to see that happen today.
Jordan Wilson joining us, outside hitter for Arizona volleyball in her first season here with the Wildcats. Speaking of that, what brought you to the sport of volleyball, Jordan?
What brought me to the sport of volleyball was really my family. So I grew up watching my mom and my grandpa play. And I always just kind of grew up around them, watching them play in tournaments in high school, college. And it was just always something that I've loved and found entertaining. So my grandpa, he really got me into doing, like, small clinics and starting to get reps and getting little practices in to try and improve and see if it was something that I really liked, and it was. So I just continued on with the sport thanks to them.
One of the top players to come out in the class of 22 from Chandler Hamilton High School. And we mentioned went over to USC for your first season. What was life in L.A. like for you for that 1 year you were there?
It was definitely an experience. Definitely grateful that I had it because now I know what I want and what I'm looking for. Being there, it was something new. I really enjoyed it being in Los Angeles, but it also was something that I figured out was more of a place for me to visit rather than live at. So I wanted to be back home, closer with my family and my younger brother, which was really the pull for me to come back home and go to Arizona.
So how much younger is your brother than you are?
He's 8 years old, so huge gap, but he's my best friend.
Oh, that's awesome. So, I mean, what is that? Describe that relationship, because obviously I would imagine you're about 17, 18 years old, and you're almost 10 years older than him. Describe the relationship that you have that made that such a strong pull for you wanting to come back to Arizona.
Him and I have always been super close. He's like a little mini version of me, and my parents say the exact same thing. I think him and I have, like, the exact same personalities. He's a little goofball, and he just loves running around and being by my side. And so I just love spending time with him and watching him grow up. So I'm super grateful to be able to be his sister.
So what's his sport going to be, you think?
He's really interested in soccer right now. That's his whole interest right now.
Outstanding. Jordan Wilson joining us on the team from the University of Arizona volleyball team. She's an outside hitter, a sophomore this year. So, Jordan, you guys have had trouble with consistency. You come out, you played well in the game against Wisconsin, although you guys didn't win. But then Coach spoke today, just did not like the way that the team came out in the game against Miami, Florida, 2 days later. What have been some of the struggles that you guys have had with playing consistently from match to match?
We've been really working hard in the gym, and we've gotten back into the gym working on the struggles and what we need to improve on to help us play better and perform better, especially in times that we need to. Really just, we're just building trust within the team and both on and off the court, and I think that's a huge key factor, and I think we're doing so great at that, and we're talking with each other and communicating really well with it, so.
What have you taken away from some of these veteran hitters on this team? Obviously, you're getting a chance to play with Sophia Maldonado Diaz and Jalen Hodge.
Mm-hmm. It's super fun playing with them. It's a huge challenge, which I'm absolutely up for. I love it. They're huge competitors, and they're consistent, and they're huge key players, too, for the team. So having them there on the team and being able to compete and play with them it's amazing. I love it. It makes me want to push myself to be better and also push them to keep on wanting to be better and keep on competing.
Now, obviously, Jalen's a couple of years older than you are, but did you have any knowledge of her when you were in high school? She's also obviously from the Phoenix area.
Right. So we actually did play each other in high school all 4 years.
Oh, wow.
All of my 4 years, 3 of hers. When I played her when she was at Queen Creek, and then when she transferred over to Basha while I was at Hamilton all 4 years.
So what was she like when you were playing against her?
She was a huge, keen, dominant player as she is now. So I haven't seen any change. If I did see a change, I'd say it's a really good one. She's just evolved and developed immensely since high school, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Jordan Wilson joining us from the U of A volleyball team. The Wildcat Classic is coming up this weekend. Your chance to get out and see the ladies play. What do you make of, obviously, you're from Arizona and you went out to USC. USC's leaving the Pac-12 to go to the Big Ten. The Wildcats are going to be in the Big 12. As an athlete, what do you guys make of all this conference realignment?
We're super grateful about it, being able to experience new competition and other teams and seeing how what they're like, and also being able to grow and learn from how they play volleyball in their conference, and being able to be the new team joining that conference. It's a huge eye opener. I think we're super grateful for it. I think we're gonna learn a lot.
Have you identified a place that you really want to go in the new conference? Is there a volleyball? I'm not familiar with the volleyball teams there. So is there one place that's we can't wait to go play there?
None really. I'm excited to play all of them. None specifically really where I'm I really, really want to go there. But I'm just excited for everyone and all the competition.
What's your favorite thing so far about Tucson?
Tucson, I would say the college life and the support that we have from the city itself. I love that it's a college town, and just the support U of A has overall. It's amazing. And the spirit.
Jordan Wilson joining us from Arizona Volleyball, outside hitter from the Phoenix area. I went to Chandler Hamilton up there. What do you like? What are some of the things that you like to do away from the game?
I really like spending time with my friends and I like going with the flow, I'd say, with plans. Not with, I'd say family, but more with friends. Hey, you want to go do this and this? I'm oh, yeah, I'm up for it. But when it comes to family, I like having, scheduled times and, knowing what's going on so I can be prepared.
You mentioned
I'd say spending time with family and friends.
You mentioned, obviously, your little brother and how your grandfather got you involved in the game. Is your grandfather still living? Does he come down to see you play here?
Oh, yes, he does. He also went to him and my grandma went to all of my games at USC as well. So they're huge supporters of me, as well as both my mom and my dad.
Does he critique you?
No, but he does. He does love to be a little coach for me, and I absolutely adore it. He was a volleyball coach, but he does do reffing now. Oh. So he's still involved with the sport now.
Does that help you in any way that he's a ref, kind of does he kind of talk to you about rules and things, I guess, does that help your play at all on the court?
I wouldn't say it helps my play with the rules, but it definitely teaches me a lot because over the summer I do like to work tournaments just for like younger kids and like learning and just watching them play and have fun and repping for them.
What are you studying in here at the U of A?
Business management.
And what do you want to do with that?
I kind of want to go into marketing and take it into social media marketing or go into the real estate area.
There you go. How are you trying to obviously it's all about the brand now with the NIL. How are you trying to craft your brand as a student athlete?
I'm really just trying to get myself out there and build connections with people and getting to know everyone. And just being me with people. And yeah, that's how I'm building it right now.
Any cool products that you've had a chance to endorse yet or that you'd like to endorse?
I actually did just recently work with Hyper Ice. They're a recovery brand that a lot of athletes use, and it was a really fun time. It was a good experience.
Tell us about it's called Hyper Ice. Tell us about that and what that's all about.
So I did. They just dropped a new product. It's a little massage gun, and it just helps with recovery for muscles and just. It's really just recovery, and it's super good. I love it. I've always used it. My favorite thing is the compression boots that they have.
Wow, compression booths. Is that
Yes.
Is that one of those lay down deals, or you just kind of go and stand in it?
No, you sit down in it. You lay down.
Outstanding, Jordan. Hey, we appreciate you taking some time to join us. Best of luck this weekend at the Wildcat Classic, and as you guys get into Pac-12 play.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great speaking with you.
Jordan Wilson, outside hitter for Arizona Volleyball. She is the one of the top players on the team this year behind Sofia Maldonado Diaz and the veteran Jalen Hodge. And she's going to be probably the top hitter moving forward once those other two ladies are gone. Jordan, so far this season, has 61 kills, and that is third on the club. She's hitting .240 on the season, which is not bad for an outside hitter. Generally, you want to be in that 270 to 300 range as an outside hitter with your hitting percentage. That is going to wrap up our program for today. Tomorrow, I'm going to pick an NFL game, and you've got a chance to win a $50 gift card from Miller Lite. It's our Miller Lite Pigskin Challenge. So be ready to call on the queue to have a chance to play against me. Thanks to J-Dub. Thanks to Dragon Ball. Thanks to Christy. Most of all, thanks to you for listening. I'm David Kelly. This is DK on the Sports Tip. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
From the O'Reilly